We're in a conspiratorial mess where we have no idea what's real, what's true or not. Conspiracies are now being allowed to be talked about. So Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, they have pretty much taken over the conspiratorial space as far as the mainstream is concerned. And I'm very happy to see how many people are waking up to things, but it's become a convoluted mess because it's a information war that has gotten out of control. And with AI, the era of video evidence is long gone. We can no longer trust what we're seeing being presented to us. And who knows how long the media has been using AI against us. And I know that the technology that we have access to now is far behind anything that our military-industrial complex.
Decades, probably.
How long have they been showing these videos that may not even be real to perpetuate high-impact events and fear factors and wars and all of this? So how do we know any given event has any level of reality to it? The Artemis mission, I don't know if you saw the video where press was supposedly taking pictures of the astronauts with their cell phones, but someone standing behind them taking a video of them noticed that there's no one in the frame of the cell phone, like they're taking pictures of nothing. So I don't know what this means, if it's all AI, but like I said earlier, we cannot trust anything that we are presented as video evidence anymore. Every major, massive, world-ending thing that they're trying to present to us is complete dog, because I don't think they have any control over anything except the bull they're putting out there.
Welcome back to Far Out with Faust. Today we're venturing into the uncharted territories of psychological warfare, the extraterrestrial agenda, and the hidden mechanisms of global control with my brother in arms and fellow podcaster, Chris Mathieu. Chris is an OG in the podcast game. He's been doing this for over a decade. He's a visionary filmmaker, and he's the founder and host of the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. Chris brings a razor-sharp perspective on how the truth is continually distorted, suppressed, and weaponized against the public. In this episode, we tackle how the profound and pressing issue of AI and technological advancement is being used to enslave consciousness and blur the lines of reality. We examine the deeply entrenched narratives, exploring how orchestrated events and false flags are continually used to manipulate the masses into fear and compliance. We pull back the curtain on the extraterrestrial conversation and all things disclosure. We discuss how the government's sudden drip feed of the whole UFO phenomenon is less about transparency, obviously, and more about introducing a new invisible threat to the public. Project Bluebeam, anyone? Just another means of further control and the expansion of the military-industrial complex. But we don't stop there. We also dive into Chris's chilling experiences near the Skinwalker Ranch, where he witnessed firsthand what he believes was highly advanced, classified military technology masquerading as paranormal activity. Yet, even amidst the deep state exposés and discussions of the parasitic ruling class's agenda, this conversation is ultimately, once again, about reclaiming your sovereignty, refusing to participate in the parasite class's manufactured reality. Strap in, keep your eyes and your heart open, and welcome my brother Christopher to the show.
It's awesome to welcome you onto my podcast, brother. Thank you for beaming in.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. Always enjoy being on the other end of the microphone. This is a fun thing for me, so thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely, man, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, we podcasters, we have to listen a lot. Some are better at it than others. I admittedly probably talk a little too much. My fans, my audience, I apologize if that happens sometimes. But sometimes we have a lot to say, but we can't exactly get it out or say it, right? But we're always being the recipient of a lot of varying opinions and information. So when I get a chance to talk to such an experienced podcaster like yourself, I get a chance to try to get some of your actual opinions, because we have to nod our heads and agree even when we don't agree. But there's always a fine line to walk. So there's so many subjects I want to talk to you about. But I noticed that you had a former guest of mine, and she was also, I think, more than a multiple guest of yours, but you had Alana Freeland on not too long ago. what a perfect guest for a perfect time with everything going on. I was wondering what you took from that interview. Everyone, Alana Freeland, she was writing about what we referred to as chemtrails until geoengineering came along and stole the heavyweight title from it, and legitimized it as if it was something good, and she's been talking about it in a lot of ways, writing books about it for a long time, and turns out she was right about a lot. But Chris just talked to her. What did you take from that interview, bro?
I took that this is a lady that we should have been listening to a long time ago. Like you said, she's been in this space for a while. She was talking about chemtrails before anyone else was. But she's moved on, and she's at a point where she's like, I warned you guys, we're already in it. All these things I've been discussing has already been deployed. We're sitting in a sea of electromagnetic soup. AI is taking over people's lives and making them stupider. These frequencies that we immerse ourselves in are killing us and causing cancers. And the future is only going to bring more of this technological immersement that is going to basically imprison our consciousness. And I think that's essentially one of the goals. It's already starting to chip away at younger generations, make us more reliant on this technology. So, yeah, man, she's been on it for a very long time. And some of the things I pray that she's wrong about, but she's a very smart lady and she seems to be right so far.
Yeah, man. This has been a big debate, and I've had people come on my show the last couple months that have kind of reshaped my opinion about it. I have children, so I see the pitfalls. I see the traps inherent in the technology, and in that way, I think it's very safe to say that they are already enslaving. The technology is already enslaving, especially the younger generations. I mean, just walk down the street. People are literally, they don't even watch where they're going.
Yeah.
So there's that. But, I had William Henry on, and I had another Tigo Bazell on, and a few people also, of all people, Danny Goler. Remember, Danny Goler?
Danny, I've had him on a couple times.
Yeah. So, and, Danny was like, listen, this technology is here for us, the more we fear it, the more we turn away from it, the more the people who shouldn't be in charge of it are going to tool it the way they want to control the masses. Those of us who are more conscious of it, both of its benefits and its dangers, the more we turn away, the more opportunity they have to use this the way they want. And I'm like, that is a great point that everyone needs to keep in mind, because the truth is, it's an extension of our consciousness. It's a creation of our consciousness. People can talk about, AI created. I mean, come on. Like, all of a sudden AI is biblical. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break. All of a sudden the reptilians are worshiping AI. They weren't worshiping AI 30 years ago when we were talking about them. Like, what, it's just crazy to me that AI has taken this, this big old final boss level kind of.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's the state of our reality right now, is trying to take something that can be mundane and sensationalize it. We live in a time where, if you look back at like 2020, 2021, I was excited about where people's consciousness was headed. I was excited about seeing people wake up to things and become aware. But just like with any other movement that's beneficial for humanity, it gets infiltrated and co-opted, and now we're in a conspiratorial mess where we have no idea what's real, what's true or not. People are taking advantage of the fact that conspiracies are now being allowed to be talked about. So not only that, we have the mainstream alternative media that has infiltrated this space. People like us who have been the original independent content creators that started a while back, we've gotten pushed down to the bottom of the algorithm. We have these big time, in alternative media like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. They have pretty much taken over the conspiratorial space as far as the mainstream is concerned. And there's a group of us that had started in, 2012 through 2016 that were putting out great information that have been suppressed and censored so much, and now they've allowed a bunch of new people to come in, which I'm very happy to see how many people are waking up to things. But it's become a convoluted mess because it's a information war that has gotten out of control. And with AI, I think the era of video evidence is long gone. We can no longer trust what we're seeing being presented to us, and who knows how long the media has been using AI against us. And I know that the technology that we have access to now is far behind anything that our military-industrial complex.
Decades,
so
probably.
How long have they been showing these videos that may not even be real to perpetuate high-impact events and fear factors and wars and all of this? So we're in a very interesting crossroads right now where we have to decide what we're going to put our energy into, what we're going to interact with, and how we're going to build up technology so that they're beneficial for us and not just taking our lives from us.
Fail-safes and diagnostics need to be at the ready. I agree with what you said, and God, I had great hope after 2020 as well. I mean, some of us were some of the loudest right out of the gate. And of course, we got hit the hardest and the most severe for having an inkling of what was going on, knowing the history of Bill Gates, knowing the history of the eugenicist movement and seeing, and then like the slightest research into that industry. Just before you even get conspiratorial, I'm talking about like just front and center, first couple hours. Oh, okay. So it typically takes on average 12 years to develop that shot and safety test it. And that's just, and they're saying, oh yeah, we'll have it in a few weeks. And everyone's like, oh, thank God. I'm like, that means either that means they've been working on it for 12 years and this is all, or this is something that you want to run away from. Like, but even that, you couldn't even say that without being attacked. But it ended up being a great awakening, right? Millions of people were like, were home. They were watching shit like Fall of the Cabal, which was a Q psyop, but had some good information in it about the Rothschilds, about the Vatican, D.C., London, about the child trafficking that is rampant in this country, which there's no longer a doubt now, thanks to Epstein and company. That's not conspiracy. And so I also had great faith, and I was like, between 9/11 and between 2020, and people are really on to these motherfuckers. And the next time they pull some shit, no one's going to believe it. And then October 7th happened. And I was like, no one's going to believe this. But no one's going to believe this. I was like, anybody with half a brain knows that Hamas is like literally couldn't fire a pistol without the permission of Israel. They're under the best surveillance on this planet and then some. This is a group of terrorists who are only allowed to operate because it's beneficial for Israel and the United States funding Israel. So when the headlines read, Hamas invades Israel, attacks, I was like, no one's gonna believe this. This is so silly. Don't they know that the intelligence that these people have? Yeah. Everyone believed it, dude. I mean, immediately on my page, I was like, everyone was like, I just started shedding hundreds of followers. Of course, I've gained tens of thousands since because, I don't change my tune. And it turns out I was fucking right all along. We didn't even have to wait 10 years to figure that out. It was a week later. Someone's like, oh yeah, Israel knew a year beforehand. I was like, see, that didn't take very fucking long. I bet you they killed their own people because that's what they do. That's what the United States does. It's the same fucking playbook. And sure enough, that came out maybe like 2 months later, the Hannibal directive. I was like, oh, go figure. Half the body count was Israel's. So but apparently, people are much slower to. You can wake up on one thing and still be as you haven't. Most people don't extrapolate. You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Well, another problem is the level of theater we've been subjected to our entire lives. Everything we've been presented on television, through our media, we have to question. We don't know the level of reality behind any given event, behind any war, behind any high impact event that's shown to us, terrorist attack. The control that comes out of the fear factor of these events is essential for the ruling class, and they've been using it since the dawn of time. But ever since they've had a level of technology to present it to us from across the world as an event that's happening that we'll never be able to truly vet and know if it really happened or not. And on the other side of the world, they're showing them completely different things. So we're subjected to theater all around. I'm pretty sure at this point I can look at any politician and replace politician with actor. And this is across the board. Once you get to a certain level, and they outright cast people to play the parts of politicians. So how do we know any given event has any level of reality to it? The Artemis mission, I don't know if you saw the video where press was supposedly taking pictures of the astronauts with their cell phones, but someone standing behind them taking a video of them noticed that there's no one in the frame of the cell phone, like they're taking pictures of nothing. So I don't know what this means, if it's all AI, but like I said earlier, we cannot trust anything that we are presented as video evidence anymore. I believe there was a point where we used to, where everyday people had access to video cameras and were taking pretty reliable video evidence for certain events, but now it can all be faked. It can all be presented as something that's really AI. So we're in a very critical time where we have to really use our discernment, and the only way we're going to navigate through this is to check out of as much of it as possible, to check out of as much as the nonsense, and just be aware that any given thing we're presented could be theatrical.
Absolutely. And almost everything we are presented is theatrical, in respect that it is pushing a narrative, that its basis in truth has little to do with reality and a lot more to do with what its paid corporate fascist oligarch sponsors are paying them to say and read. You know what I mean? Like we know that if there was nothing else learned from 2020, it's that there's a script, my friends, and it's written and it's distributed. It's like a memo that goes out to the world. Like, this is what's going on. Tell them, and that's a whole nother can of worms. But, I like what you said, on the flip side of that though. Now listen, I'm advocating for what you said, because people have to realize that it's all a distraction, from the elections to the fucking wars. It's, the more attention we give it, the more we're taking away from the quality of our lives that we can be living, focusing on our family, on our loved ones, on building what we want to build, doing what we want to do, and creating what we love creating, right? All of it. It just so happens that you and I do something that involves talking about those things, but there's a way to do that where people ask me, like, are you worried? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not. Why worry? I'm too busy having a good time, trying to raise my kids and enjoy my life in every way I can, and try not to let these assholes distract me too much from it. But I can talk about the skullduggery without it, making me depressed and feel like the apocalypse is coming, because I do believe that human ingenuity and the human spirit is fucking stronger than it all. And all of this darkness is going to catalyze into light. Everything I've ever known in my life that has put me through the ringer has made me the person I am. If I am someone who anyone considers to be, filled with light, it's because I was at one point so filled with darkness, and I had to come through that and out of that, and kind of remake myself into what I am. And so I always say, as above, so below. The macro goes for the micro. So even if all this shit is going on, and obviously it is, maybe it has to go on so that we can fucking figure it out and get it together and come out of it, in a way that is like, oh, this is what it means to be human. It's not about greed. It's not about, fucking hoarding and gluttony, but it's about, how great of an expression can we make ourselves as a human being?
Well, it seems like the ruling class, they have no creative ability. They are counting on our reaction to form reality. They present us with theater and nonsense, and it's up to us to manifest a certain reaction and manifest the outcome that they're looking for. And if we don't, they are shit out of luck. There's nothing else they have because everything else is an illusion. They don't, I think the nuclear threat is BS. I think every major, massive, world-ending thing that they're trying to present to us is complete dog shit because I don't think they have any control over anything except the bullshit that they're putting out there.
I love that. So are you of the belief that the entire Cold War? I mean, I know the Cold War was also a massive money laundering operation that was put into a lot of underground subcontract aerospace projects and all that. But there are people who believe that nukes have always been fake, and that at the highest level, this is known and understood. I think that's wishful thinking, sadly, because of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But those were atomic weapons. I don't know, but
see, I don't know either. I think they have very destructive weapons that can destroy very vast amount of land at a time and do major damage to huge areas. But as far as what they're portraying with world-ending nuclear weapons, I'm not so sure. I think there's a lot of fear behind that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely all about fear. And like you said, fear is their greatest weapon. And also, I love what you said about, their sole ability is creating a narrative. It's like a big giant chessboard for them. And clearly it ain't a lot of fun because, what more could you win? What more could you want? So what's left? I mean, like when you have trillions of dollars salted in accounts and assets around the world, what is left for you to do?
Yeah.
You got to do something with your life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, if your last name is Rothschild, what do you do? I mean, you continue to indoctrinate your children that they're the ones here to rule the world, according to whoever nominated them or however they got their wealth,
Yeah.
But at what point in time do we realize that we're making this all up collectively? So if the whole world decides that the Rothschilds aren't owed any more money, what the fuck are the Rothschilds going to do about it?
Right.
Nothing. They can do nothing. There's 8 billion of us. We make the rules. The whole structure of human beings have not realized that the Matrix was a real movie, and we're all fucking Neo, and we can decide how we want to move forward anytime we wake up and start believing who we are and what we are. And that's what I'm waiting for people to smack themselves in the head and wake the fuck up and realize that we don't have to go along with anything if we don't want to. All we have to do is do it together, Yeah, that's why they use fear.
Well, if the Epstein files have taught us anything, it's that there will be no justice served for any of these predators because it's judge, jury, and executioner presenting us with the Epstein files. I think it's all demoralization. It's for us to become more and more desensitized to the fact that Satanists rule the planet and eating babies, and just to get us to a point where, oh, it's normal. That's just the way the ruling class are. What are you going to do about it? Go about our day and plug into our, our Borg.
Yeah. And in truth, they've been doing that since Darwin, brother. This is like, in a fucking crazy way, Epstein is like Darwin 5.0. Darwin, the belief system of Darwin that was taken from his observations as a hobbyist, as a person who was, higher middle class, and as you know, enough money to travel and bring his binoculars and take notes, and that's what he did for fun, and he made notes. And the oligarchy at that time really liked what he started to say. Oh, some species are more dominant than others. Oh, it seems like it's survival of the fittest. That's something we can get behind. They added the words dominant or superior race to his third edition. It would never appeared in the first two editions. His new funders, which were the Habsburgs, all the same families that are still running shit today. They really liked that. And they wanted it taught so that people understood that to step on someone's throat isn't human. It's just nature. And it's not. Those were not Darwin's. Darwin made a lot of observations, but they boiled it down to one, like survival of the fittest, dog eat dog world, step on someone's fucking throat just to get by. Don't worry about it. Just accept it, because that's human nature. That's nature. And that's not nature. Nature is adaptability, Nature is cooperation. Nature is living in harmony with the planet. It's not. They do that though, they've been doing it since as long as we've been around.
And that's another thing. There is unlimited resource on this planet.
That's right.
And they portray the illusion of scarcity with everything. And they also have to make sure that they have control over the resources, because if we are aware that we have unlimited water, that we can plant crops that will give us annual, fruits and food and all of these things that we are currently using, our current agricultural system is based off of scarcity. We only plant things that are going to have a certain shelf life and last a certain amount of time during the year. There are fruits and vegetables that we could plant out there that last all year, that have more nutrients than the things we're offered, but it's all based on the illusion of scarcity. And that's a huge area that keeps them in control of everything, because as we speak, they're putting up the data centers that are eating up more and more resources, even though it's unlimited. Most people don't know that. So most people think that they're going to use up all the water with these data centers, and we're going to, be on a planet where everything is even less than we have now. So that's another huge factor that they try and use, but the planet is not scarce at all.
No, scarcity is part of the fear mongering mindset. Let me just say this: every single thing that we've been taught is scarce, unless you're living in the Sahara, and we're talking about water. With the sole exception being in certain climates on this planet, there are certain things that are you can logistically and literally say yes, water is scarce in the Sahara Desert. But when you're talking about anything from oil, food, electricity, energy, water, you name it, it's all bullshit. There's more than enough for everyone. And there's a reason why a lot of people don't live in the desert, because there's no water, right? But where everyone else lives, there's plenty. Scarcity is a mindset. And the sad thing about it is it's taught to everyone so that the oligarchs can retain monopolistic control and continue to gouge prices, raise price. We're as if there's a gas shortage. As if there's even the notion that oil is so limited. Which I'm not advocating for fossil fuels, but that's all a lie too. Diamonds are the price of diamonds. Diamonds are a fucking dime a dozen. The Little Hats did a great job marketing the diamonds and taking control over them. That's why the diamond industry is what it is. But like everything, man, it's all an illusion of scarcity. And if people would wake up to that and realize that what they've been taught is false, then the world would start to reflect this abundant heaven we've been blessed to live on, this beautiful, gem of a planet off the beaten path in the Milky Way, man. This place is like heaven, man. I mean, I really believe that. Everything is right here. And it breaks my heart that people are so under like this belief system that there's never going to be enough. It's all going to go away.
Something I've noticed is we're kind of in a place where we're between major invisible enemies. Yeah, we have the immigration thing. Yeah, we got Iran and the war going on, but not that major fear factor like Islamic terrorism or something along those lines that they push to keep us in line and begging for their protection for things. But we have UFO disclosure coming. This could be the next invisible enemy that we have to face, that Big Daddy government has to protect us from the invasion of the reptilians and the Greys.
Yeah.
This is another thing. I used to love like UFOs and aliens and disclosure and all of this. And when I was a kid, I thought it'd be so exciting to ever see a time like this. But I've learned too much over the past decade about psyops and propaganda and psychological warfare and the nature of possibly UFOs and extraterrestrials, how the military has been involved with rolling out information since the beginning, since the first time UFOs have been uttered. So when you add in that fact that the government is now in control of letting us know about the reality of what lies beyond and if there's life on other planets, then that's a huge red flag for me, because they don't have the best track record of ever telling us what's real.
No. And listen, anything the government is spoon feeding you is for an agenda. It's not so that you know, it's because they want you to know this. And anyone who's spent years researching the UFO cover up can tell you that, first of all, the government has no access. All of it has been compartmentalized and subcontracted through like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman.
All these aerospace
they
companies
have all the access, and even that's compartmentalized within its employees. I don't know. There are probably less than 100 people on this planet who actually know the full picture, beginning to end, with every detail and interaction and who has what and where it's stored and what we've created and what we've reverse engineered. There's probably 100 people, if that. The rest have bits and pieces. And the government, the United States government, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. They know exactly what they've been spoon-fed by the fascist corporate elite, I shouldn't say elite, the parasite class that run these aerospace corporations. They're the same parasites that own the oil industry, own the energy industry, that keep choking the planet, in order to continue to gouge more control and power and resources. So you cannot believe a fucking thing the government tells you. If you're watching a video that the government, quote, released, it's because they want you to watch it, and it's not because they want you to know anything. It's because there is something coming that they want you to be afraid of.
Man, see, I have covered the paranormal for a long time. It's one of my favorite topics to cover on this show, and I think that there's a spiritual realm. I think there's intelligences that we don't understand that lie beyond our perception, but I think the whole extraterrestrial narrative is bullshit. I don't think there are beings coming from different planets. I think maybe we're dealing with something more metaphysical when people have contact with intelligences or beings. But all that being said, when I was filming my second movie, Doors of Perception, a couple of years ago, I went spend a couple of nights with my friend Ryan Burns at his Space Wolf Research Center, right next door to Skinwalker Ranch. It's literally right next door. You could put your foot on their property.
Wow.
And I learned a lot of interesting things about the possibilities of what's really going on there.
Right.
The first night I was there, we had black ops teams surrounding us. You couldn't see them just with your bare eyes, but Ryan has night vision goggles. And we were looking around. You could see the shadows moving around. They were shining lasers at us. You could see their rifles, all kind of crazy stuff. We were being surveyed the whole time. From what I understand, that whole area is a exotic weapons testing facility. A lot of what people are experiencing is the military testing it on the people in that area. So it's like a massive experiment going on there. They have plenty of people who have died of cancers and these exotic illnesses after they've had a quote-unquote UFO encounter. My friend Ryan had neurological damage when he was investigating a cattle mutilation. Some weird radiation got on him and he couldn't even function for almost a year. But what I found out is, a lot, not everything, because I think there's something natural that does occur in that area. It's been happening long before our aerospace companies and military industrial complex discovered it. But a lot of what people are experiencing is military weapons. And I'll tell you an example of something they have that Ryan definitely believes is military technology. They were outside of one of his trailers at night, and he said he saw like a little whirlwind at first. It was like a little mini tornado, but it didn't look right because the particulates in there seemed heavy. And he got a closer look at it, and it just looked like swirling little metal particulates, and it formed into a creature. It formed into like this 6-foot tall metal particulate creature grabbed his friend and pushed him up against the wall, and then dissipated into these nanobots, and then formed into a coyote, and then ran off.
Get the fuck out of here.
He swears this was military technology that they were seeing, because he's heard some things that they're working on out there, and he's seen other examples that are similar to this, including holographic apparitions of what they're calling skinwalkers.
Mm-hmm. So, Skinwalker Ranch, I think, is it's always been a special place as far as the spiritual and metaphysical or interdimensional energies that exist there. And of course, leave it to the United States government to be like, well, that's a great place we should run our experiments. Call DARPA. We gotta build a fort here. That's the U.S. government for you. But I do not subscribe to the fundamentalist belief that all ETs are somehow evil and demonic, and that people are confused because they're not really ETs. They're just angels and demons in disguise. And I'm like, don't you guys know that there's room for all of those things to exist at the same time? It does not have to be one or the other. I don't believe for a moment that they're not extraterrestrials already here, have been here. I don't think it's very safe for them to just be flying around the planet. I think
I've heard some wild stories about the possibilities of ETs being here from certain quote unquote whistleblowers that have interviewed. We can get into that later, though.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, you can't believe obviously every whistleblower, but I'm friends with Danny Sheehan, and Danny Sheehan is chock full of integrity. He's a lawyer who has battled the government and held their fucking feet to the fire on everything from the Iran-Contra affair to, the church. He was instrumental in it all, and somehow he's still going, and this is his main thing right now. And he was like, I had dinner with him a few months ago, and he was like, we not only do we know where they are, we know exactly where they are underground. We know how many crafts. We know all these things. We just don't have the fucking subpoena power that we would need from the United States government to go in and say, you're not allowed to keep this anymore. It was unconstitutional tax, stolen money that you used to build it, and therefore we're confiscating it. And that's, they've been working on that for years. Now, if they can ever succeed, and Danny thinks they can, they need RICO power. They need a subpoena power and RICO power. They were this close to getting it, and then it was torpedoed at the last minute. They declawed the bill. They would have been able to go to Northrop Grumman with warrants, guns, and it would have been an interesting shit show. I've always thought about writing a film where it's the aerospace companies versus, or I should say, the deep state versus like the armed forces, and what would happen, if you had these two clash. Because, the famous Eisenhower interaction when Ike said, I want to know the progress on the Roswell crash retrieval, and they were like, I'm sorry, sir, but you don't need to know. And he was like, fuck you, I'm the president of the United States. And he was a 5-star general, the last 5-star general. He was like, I'll come down there with the 121st Airborne, and then you could tell me to my face that it's none of my business, that I'm not allowed to see. And then they were like, all right, okay, you know. So they let him in, but he was the last one, and he fucking knew it. And that's what his speech was about.
Yeah.
Beware the military-industrial complex, you know. And he told Kennedy. Kennedy knew. Kennedy was bringing Marilyn Monroe down to see the saucers and like shagging her with his brother near the saucers, which is exciting and kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Kennedy was the last president besides George Herbert Walker Bush to really fucking know what we're sitting on and how many bodies we've had. You know, if you don't believe that ETs are real, then how do you explain EB, you know, which one of the most, you know, kind of, I mean, the movie E.T. came of that, was inspired by that. But that was a crash retrieval that happened shortly after Roswell, where the human figure lived. And he was in CIA captivity for 2.5 years until he got sick and died. And there's massive documentation, records, you know, they recorded every fucking minute of him with his CIA handler who became very close with him. And like William Cooper, he saw the pictures, he read the files, he saw the videos. William Cooper, of course.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like, what do you like? So
I think there's so much truth within the UFO lore, but they have to mix in just so much BS so that we don't know what's real. I remember when I first started the show, I interviewed a few people that claimed to be super soldiers in the secret space program.
Oh yeah, people like fucking Jay White, yeah.
Yeah, well, so a lot of these people have very compelling stories, and I think most of them really believe what's happened to them for whatever reason. But I've also interviewed quote-unquote whistleblowers that claim to have been involved on the other side of some of those projects that say, yeah, they're just drugging people and they're hypnotically suggesting that they're going off planet and fighting these aliens, so they'll have these wild stories to perpetuate so that they can insert them in the UFO community. They can spread the BS along so that nobody knows if it's real or if it's not, and there's so much fantastical nonsense mixed in with real encounters and contact experiences. So I've interviewed hundreds of contactees and abductees. I think most of them truly believe their experiences, and I think something truly happened to them. But to try and understand exactly what is almost impossible with all the disinformation that we've been subjected to. But I agree. I think there's something to it, but at this point, it's really difficult to sift through everything.
Oh, and that's obviously deliberate.
Yeah.
So, you know, I go back and forth between the whole 20 and back. What do they call it? 20 and back?
20 and back, yeah, that's
fucking
it.
Corey
That's
Goods.
it.
And,
Yeah.
you know, because I don't think for a moment it's impossible. I don't think they have a true understanding of how it's done. I think it's very hard to comprehend, but do I think it's out of the realm of possibility with what they've been doing? No. If you can master gravity, you can master time. You know what I'm saying? We know that they've mastered cloning because when Dolly came and went, we never heard a fucking word about it again. What do you think, they stopped with Dolly?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Give me a fucking break. You know what I mean? Like, so like cloning, you know, they have to be able to, you know, so there are some whistleblowers who I do believe, who I can see and gauge the sincerity of what they're saying. I can see how they search their memory for what they're talking about. As an actor, I trust my discernment with people, and other people, you know, I'm just like, this dude is just parroting, or he's not being honest right now. You know, when you're remembering something, you naturally kind of look towards the part of your brain where that memory lives. There's certain tells, there's emotions that come with certain sensory descriptions, you know, like that's why do you ever see TV, you know, you're watching somebody and they're doing like a forensic file, and he's like, yeah, no, I'll never forget it. You know, I was sitting there and then, and you're like, damn, this dude's talking about when his daughter was murdered, and he sounds like he's reading a fucking grocery list. You know?
Yeah.
But it's because he said it so many times. But then he gets to, you know, he's like, and then I got the phone call, you know, because the phone call triggers the memory, the real memory, the emotion behind it. And like, you know, so when you're listening to whistleblowers and people, a lot of them have been through the fucking ringer themselves. A lot of them are very traumatized, but there are certain things that you can intuit and discern about who's sincere. I believe Emery Smith is sincere. He was on the first 2 seasons of Cosmic Disclosure with David Wilcox. And if you watch those 2 seasons and you listen to what he says about his experiences working 25 fucking years underground, you tell me that, I mean, obviously he believes what he's saying, but he's a straight up dude, man.
Well, Emery's interesting because I agree. I think there's something that he was involved with something, but what I couldn't tell you. But what makes me not trustworthy of some of the things he has to say is my friend Brad Olson took a trip to Antarctica, and he was told by Emery the exact base to go, the exact general to talk to that would definitely be at the base that would allow him to witness some of the underground programs that they're going. He goes out there to the exact base. There's no general with that name. There's no, everybody's looking at him like he's crazy. So,
but does that surprise you at all? I mean,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
And
because
do you think that's on Emery's end, or do you think that's on the fucking receiving end? Because
it could be. It could be either way. Because I don't have access to the conversation.
I would have never went that far.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he was going to go anyway, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I think Emery, understands the world that we're living in. They've come after him a lot, and he's learned what he can and cannot say. But, you can watch Linda Moulton Howe's documentary on Antarctica. It's on Prime. I think it's called Antarctica and the Secret Alien Bases, or it's something right on the nose. It's her interviewing 2 whistleblowers with very strong Texas accents, if you got an ear for that thing. And these dudes are military. I mean, they're like, yes, ma'am. I mean, they're straight up trained military. Every response is, they're like at attention. And they're not acting. And then they're talking about how the fuck they ended up in Antarctica and what they saw there. And, it's just like, these people experienced it. They went there and physically saw things. They saw giant doors just levitating, just like we hear the whistleblowers in 2023 talk about with Dr. Greer when they came out, what they saw at this underground fort in America. So it's just this giant square metallic rock-like thing. It was just, but he looked underneath it, and there was nothing supporting it. It was just levitating. And so he one of the guys, I forgot his name, he stopped and tied his shoes to look down, and they kicked him in the ass, and they pointed their gun at him. They said, keep walking. And he's the dude they threw out of a plane. I don't know if you ever saw that press conference.
No.
It's fucking mind-blowing, dude. Dr. Greer did another press conference in 2023, and he brought forth like 5 new whistleblowers. All of these guys had been through it and ended up in a compartmentalized program working with these aerospace subcontracted companies, and seen too much, and then found a way out to survive. And then through Dr. Greer, gave their testimony to try to stay fucking alive,
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating news conference. And you watch those guys, you tell me that they're not sincere in what they saw.
Yeah. Something I can definitely get down with, mainly based on my own experiences with very strong doses of psychedelics, is I believe there are realms beyond our perception, whether you want to say it's interdimensional or imaginal or the astral realms. I think there is real places that we can access that our consciousness goes to that is just as real as this physical reality. There's also intelligences there. I think that in these realms, we're also having experiences and living essentially a life, but it's a mirrored reality to this. And I've had plenty of people who claim that they've been able to access these realms through various methods. I've been able to, what I believe is access those realms through psychedelics. I've had plenty of experiences where I perceive that I left my body and had a little adventure elsewhere and communicated with entities. And I think these are real places. I think that psychedelics give us access, but not only that, meditation. Yeah. I think when some people are having these contact experiences, that's where they're going. Their consciousness is being taken to these extra dimensional places, and they're having real experiences. And I heard a very fascinating story about a remote viewer who, and I couldn't verify if this is true, but he was supposedly a CIA remote viewer, and he was supposedly remote viewing a base on the moon. And apparently he wasn't supposed to, because he claims there are entities out there that are on the lookout. They are remote viewing themselves, and they're in these realms. They're on the lookout for people trying to infiltrate, and they caught him. And this guy is still apparently in a coma somewhere.
That's the rumor.
Yeah, so
That's the rumor.
Not verifiable, but it's very interesting.
Very interesting. It reminds me of Joe McMonagle, who remote viewed Mars, having no idea he was remote viewing Mars. They just gave him an envelope with latitude, longitude.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, what the, if you guys haven't seen Joe McMonagle's interview with Sean Ryan, watch all 5 hours of it. I've watched it 4 times. It's like, the dude is just, it's fucking, just so few people who are so sincere and just comfortable in their bodies, just telling you about the shit that they've experienced. Like, just phenomenal interview. God bless Sean Ryan for that interview. But, he remote viewed the city on Mars. He said, but he had no idea he was remote viewing Mars. He just kept saying, he's like, is this new? And they were like, just tell us what you see, And he was like, this pyramid is huge. It's like so much bigger than the ones in Egypt. He's like, and the chairs are for people who are a lot bigger than us, and the people are a lot bigger than us. And there's a sense of, he was like, no, it's not even a sense of doom. It's already done. It's already doomed. Like, there was a sense of doom. They were waiting and they never could get out, and there was a whole city there. And then he went to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, and he slipped them the latitude, longitude, because when he opened it, the envelope, it said Mars 1 million BC. He was like, oh shit.
Wow.
He was like,
yeah.
What do you say to that? He was like, oh, imagine having that job. It's fucking wild. But then he was like, all right. He went to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is a publicly funded, space corporation, whatever. And he gave them the latitude, longitude that he was given a remote view for Mars. And as soon as he handed it to him, the guy said to him, and I quote, "Oh, you want to see the old city on Mars?" He was like, "Yeah, I want to see the old city on Mars. I'm glad everyone else knows about it."
Yeah.
I just thought that was fucking hilarious. People are so naive about what we've been doing, and why we. Then there's the moon, right? Like, people are like, "Oh, the moon." You got a pretty incredible percentage of people who think like the moon. First of all, flat earthers believe the moon is, and we're going to talk about this thing. They believe it's like a plasma thing. I'm like, but when I look at it through my telescope,
yeah, it looks pretty physical.
It looks pretty fucking real.
Yeah.
I can see the craters, and I can see the craft going, flying by and coming in and out. All you need is an amateur telescope and the moon, and you've got something to do every night. That there's a clear sky and the moon's out. That there's a lot going on in the moon. But the moon is. I've been doing research on the moon because I want to do a special on it. Because once you start researching it, you're like, wait a minute. There's something very peculiar about our moon, right?
Yeah.
And there's a massive array of anomalies. From the fact that its orbit with us is unchanged and has been unchanged. We have a lot of evidence to show that it wasn't always in our orbit. So where the fuck did it come from, and how did it become perfectly, in this, what do they like, the way it eclipses, the distance it keeps, the way it's landlocked. All of these things are anomalies. The fact that, it's, according to all the astronauts, it's hollow, that when they landed, they heard a ringing sound and they recorded it. It was there, and nothing happened on the seismic readers that they were using. It was just this loud ringing that they heard for minutes. And then, people were like, well, we never went to the moon. Listen, I'm not saying that NASA is not a cover agency for the public and for the space race. It obviously is. They specialize in fraud. That's what they do. But that doesn't mean that we never landed on the fucking moon. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't part of it that was faked and staged and shot for TV. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like two things can be true
Right.
at the same time.
I have
I
an
don't know.
interesting thought about the nature of the cosmos and our reality. I think flat Earth is ridiculous, but I also think that our traditional model of the cosmos doesn't make sense either. So what I've been considering, I've been looking a lot into simulation theory, holographic reality, and I'm down with the possibility that maybe our reality renders as we experience it. So as we look at the moon, it creates this imaginal possibility of what the moon is and what's out there in space. And if we take a rocket out there, it's going to solidify what we imagined it would be, or what, it rendered as we experienced it. And I think this is what's possible for everything. What's possible for our existence. And I've had enough experiences to know that there's something to manifestation. I don't think it's the new age woo-woo thing that a lot of people tell us, but if we have the right positive intent, and if we work towards it in a certain way, and we put that energy towards something as our intention is out there, that thing damn well will manifest itself. And I've experienced it too many times for it not to be so. So I'm down with that possibility of some kind of simulated reality. I don't think it's a technological simulation like many people would say it is. Maybe more of a biological matrix or something, but maybe it renders as we experience.
Man, I love that you said that. It's funny, Bashar, who Daralenka is his real name, but he channels an entity he claims is from like 500 years in an alternate future. And, like you could say whatever you want about whether Daryl is channeling a being named Bashar who is, a hybridization from 500 years in an alternate fucking future. You can debate that all day. But if you listen to what his teachings tell you about this life, about this reality, about how we are creators, how we're always creating, and different recipes that you can apply and just see if they work. See if they work for you. There's so much wisdom in his teachings. One of the things people always ask him, Bashar, is the earth flat? And he was like, it is for the people who believe it is,
Yeah.
And like in that respect, he's right. Listen, I know so many people whose IQs are so much bigger than mine, who believe the earth is basically a floating disc. and I'm like, my intelligence as far as mathematics and science, it pales in comparison to these people. And I'm not going to say that there's not validity to what they've come to as a conclusion. I just don't know if there is a conclusion to come to, because it's like you said, we know that everything in this world is conscious and consciousness. It's perception. So, and then there's the whole conspiracy theorist in me who's like, no. I'll list you 1,000 conspiracies right now, and I'll tell you exactly why, physically why. It's not a religion. It's, religion, the return on the religion is fear, mortality. It's a necessity. They need us to fear death. And they need us to fear that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, that we could be punished even after we die somehow. That's the psyop of religion. What's the psyop of flat earth? People are like, well, we'll never know our true potential. I'm like, we don't know our true potential now, whether the earth is round or flat. You know what I mean? Like, what is to gain? There's a monetary, there's a measurable, equitable gain, whatever the conspiracy is, whether it's for control. I do not see one for flat earth. And plus, how do you get every single, how do you fisheye every lens? How do you make that'd be like the biggest, most, I just don't.
Maybe it's like Schrodinger's reality. It's all in a state of flux until we all collectively agree on something, and then it snaps together as that.
Seriously, though, that's what you just said is probably something more akin to the truth than one thing or the other. Because we know from experiments like Schrodinger that consciousness plays a part. The observer is playing a part in what is being observed and how it's observed. And that's the big thing. But they don't teach us that in school. They teach us Newtonian physics and math that we'll never use in our lives.
Well, I have a great feeling that the cat's out of the bag when it comes to some of these concepts, that it's unstoppable, the direction we're going to start heading once enough people realize that we have these abilities to create our reality. It's going to be a snowball effect, and I don't think it's going to be stoppable unless they actually have those nukes and turn them against us all. So we live in a very powerful time. I think we're at a crossroads in the direction that we could go. And like I said earlier, we have to decide right now what we're going to interact with and what we're going to give our energy to and our power to. And it's time to take away as much of our energy from the systems that are anti-human, that aren't benefiting us, that have been put in place by these parasitic lizard people. We just need to pull out of that as much as possible. I think that's really the only solution that works, because the collective ones that they put forward, that's not going to work.
No. It's a fabricated, unsustainable disaster, So we have to pull out in every way we can. People are afraid of that happening. Instead of putting their minds into how can we transition? How can we brace for what's coming and be in a place of stability while everyone else figures it out. That's what we should be putting our minds on, instead of being like, we're all fucked. You know what I mean? The Ponzi scheme is going to collapse. And first of all, they've been saying that forever, and they always find a way to keep it going. And why would they stop keeping it going?
It's like I said earlier with the abundance. All we really have to do is take that first step, that initiative to plant a tree, plant a garden, and nature takes over and it does most of the work for you. You really don't have to do much except take that first step, give it a little bit of nurturing and energy, and you will have abundance. Last year, for the first time in my life, we planted a garden. And
nice, man.
All year, we had vegetables and salads and fruits, and now our garden's even bigger this year. We're going to have double the stuff we had last year, and all it took was that first step to get the ball rolling, and now we don't have to go shopping for our greenery and fruits and vegetables anymore. So
that's amazing.
It's that easy.
We did that when I moved out of Manhattan, when I pulled my head out of my rear end and moved but I moved to Georgia, and I got a greenhouse and big yard, and the air is so much cleaner here when they're not spraying the shit out of the skies. But still much, I could see the stars at night. It's amazing to be able to eat what you grew. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'm from a hunting family. We always hunted and ate what we hunted. So, I understand that there's a beauty in that. There's a natural cycle in that. But growing is fantastic, and people need to, because you can't trust. They're choking the food supply as farmers can't afford fertilizer because of Trump and his fucking put option and the fact that he is pillaging listen. People don't understand that this war is not about oil. It's not about nukes. Trump is being puppeted by his fucking oligarch friends. And he's giving big breadcrumbs. You do this, we'll sign a deal that the IRS will never fucking be able to. We'll never look at your fucking taxes for the rest of your family's existence. Not a bad deal. And all I got to do is fucking, okay. And then they put their money, he says this, the market goes this way, they make billions, right? And he makes billions. And he gets deals like, oh yeah, don't worry, the IRS will never bother you again. How's that for a fucking deal? It's terrible, man. It's terrible, but it's all manufactured. It's all, and so the time to get independent is now, in every way you can, with whatever you're doing, because they can't be trusted with anything. It's all fucking fraud.
And we have to remember that all the things that prevent us from going out there and taking these steps, most of them is illusionary. It's all based on fear behind something that would never manifest in reality. So a lot of the things that people are afraid of doing, like quitting their job and starting something on their own, they have been fed like even from my own parents, and I know it's not their fault, they've been programmed, but when I was growing up, they're like, yeah, you better find a job doing this, this, and this, because that creative stuff ain't going to get you nowhere. That music's not going to get you nowhere. And I love my parents. They were great parents, but that's something that almost every kid I know had to deal with. They were discouraged from following their dreams when it should be the opposite. They should be ingrained from their earliest age to follow their passions and their creativity and do what they're good at to offer the rest of the world. And that's how our education system needs to be completely tore down and reformed.
I mean, and it used to be like that. This was like, tribalism has gotten a very negative connotation because it's about people all ganging up on other people. But when we lived in tribes and we lived off the earth, obviously children gravitated towards either what their parents were already good at or what somebody in the village or the tribe was good at. And then that person apprenticed with them. And then they got good at it, whether it was masonry, blacksmithing, like a craft, art, whatever it was. And that was the natural, that's how you make for a happy people. You let them, learn what they love to learn about. You don't teach them all kinds of shit that they don't give to, and then say they have ADD when they can't fucking sit there and understand what they're saying. They got no interest in it. You tell me a kid who has ADD, then put him in front of a fucking cartoon for 6 hours. He's like, attention span seems perfect to me. It's just that what you're trying to teach him is utter bullshit to him. He can't understand it, and he can't bring himself to pay attention to it because it doesn't mean anything to him. It's the world is crazy, but I think it's turning around. To keep it positive. What's crazy? I was just watching this. I'm wondering what your opinion on this is. I didn't realize that they had a genome project for Sasquatch, that they actually had been collecting enough hair, and there's a lot of ins and outs about it. They've had to trick these companies into not revealing where they got the hair from, because if they tell them it's from Sasquatch, the company won't even touch it. They have to tell them that they don't know where it was recovered from. But they've been getting these really high grade results, and fascinating results. As far as the ancestry of the species goes. I don't know. Have you heard about that?
No, I have not. I have not heard anything.
I had someone on, dude. I don't know where this dude was trying to stream or shoot from, but he was like 720p. He looked like he was literally in like a shack. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to edit the thing together. It's he was like, I don't know what's wrong with my camera. I was like, does that say 320p? Where the fuck are you? Are you with the Sasquatch right now? But and we kept losing the connection. But he was telling me all these things. He wrote a bunch of books. He says that they're absolutely related to us. They're caretakers of the planet. They choose, wisely not to. They do not interact. They have no desire to interact. They're interdimensional. He said that you go to certain tribes, indigenous tribes in the Pacific Northwest and Canada, and some parts of America, and the medicine man, the shamans there, some of them who are brave enough have learned to communicate with the Sasquatches that are in the area. And they have a lot to say, and they communicate with them. And I said, so you're telling me you've spoken to? He said it's all in telepathy.
Yeah.
He said there's no language. He said it's just images, and you just understand what they're saying. Really fascinating. But this dude was like, they've been covering up the physical evidence for decades, and they've had it for as long as the Genome Project has existed. I was like, I had no idea that was, they do that with ETs and their DNA. They're like, well, half of it came back like Earth life, and the other 20% was inconclusive. No shit, it's inconclusive. You don't have anything in your fucking data bank for it. What does that mean? Like, so it's, what are you saying? So we'll just throw it out then? It's not corrupt. It's inconclusive. It means we don't have everything in the data bank you're looking in it for. You know what I mean? That's the public's like, oh, see, I told you it was fake. I'm like,
oh, it's interesting you said telepathic. For my first film, Occult, Louisiana, it covers a lot of the high strangeness that occurs in Louisiana, but I focus a big chunk of the film on Sasquatch and cryptids. One of the gentlemen that I feature in the film is a good friend of mine. His name is Scott Pace. He lives in South Louisiana in the middle of nowhere in the swamp area. He's been a hunter his whole life. He's a Christian. He doesn't do drugs, drink, and he's never been interested in Bigfoot or paranormal or anything. One day, I think it was 5 years ago or so, he was out hunting for deer. He's got his rifle, and he's in his deer stand. And he's looking out, and I cover all this in the movie. And he sees this massive 8-foot-tall humanoid covered in hair. And it's kind of a distance away, so he looks at it through his rifle scope, and he sees it up close, and it's got like black skin, and it's an ape-looking huge man. And it looks at him, and it, sees that he's looking at him. And it starts communicating telepathically. It says, hey, you shouldn't be here. And Scott's got the feeling to pan the rifle over a little. He pans it over, and he says, he shits you not, he sees a massive dog man standing there, a canine creature that's hanging out with the Bigfoot. They're foraging together. And then the dog man starts to communicate, say, hey, you better get out. I'm going to come over there and rip you apart if you don't get out of here. Wow. And then he senses the Bigfoot talking to the dog man saying, no, don't do that. He's just watching us. Right. There's no need for that. And they're having a conversation amongst them. And then he hears a more loud, commanding voice in his mind say, get out now. Wow. So he just grabs all his stuff and he starts running out of there. And he looks back and he sees like 4, 7, 8 foot tall, huge humanoids just kind of following slowly behind him, making sure he gets on out of there. And he took off. But the most interesting thing about it all, after that, he had something opened in his mind, and he was able to communicate with the creatures around his area now. So now he's not afraid of them. He goes out. He's a Christian man, so he brings his Bible and he reads them Bible verses.
Oh, boy.
And he says they like it. They communicate with him. They give him information. He said he's never encountered a dog man again. That was the only time he've ever seen anything like that. But he says there are Sasquatches all around. There are baby Sasquatches. Yeah. And he said, yes, they're interdimensional. They will go away when they don't want to be seen. Right. He says they can only be seen in certain aspects. They are seen as shadows a lot. So that's fascinating. And I covered a lot of his experience. The most interesting thing is now he's having alien abduction experiences. Something opened up, and now they're coming to him. All the beings are coming and giving him these strange experiences.
It won't be long before he's leaving his Bible at home.
Well, he's still Christian, but he has a beautiful outlook about everything. He thinks, it's all part of God's creation. These beings aren't demons. He thinks they're all God's creatures.
That's amazing. So he sounds more like when you say Christian, actual, like Christ, like big believer in
not
Jesus.
Religion, dogma,
right?
Christian,
not those are my kind of Christians. In that respect, I'm baptized and I was raised Catholic, but I don't consider myself a Christian because it's like a religious denomination. I love Jesus, and I talk to him, I pray to him. In that sense, I am a Christian. But I know the Bible and how many times it's been translated and voted upon, and I know there's good stuff in there, but I don't trust it. And I don't trust who chose it. Because I know those men and what they were about at that time. They were empires and politicians who were using popes to lay down the law of the land, introduce a mortality. Why are these people going to pay their taxes? If reincarnation is widely believed, how are we going to get people to fucking fall in line? They think they're just going to be born again the moment they die. This is a problem, And so they went about making sure that was no longer, part of Western beliefs. Just a lot of that stuff is, I have issues with religion, but I know
Oh,
there's
100%.
good stuff there.
Follow the teachings of Jesus Christ myself. I think everything else can be thrown to the wayside. All the dogma, all the nonsense. Those teachings, for me, are the keys to exiting the Matrix.
Yeah. They're also, they can be the keys to higher consciousness because they're the keys to your heart. They're the keys to the only real universal lessons we need to understand and to operate in this world, the golden rule.
Yep.
Jesus never said, worship me and read this book or else,
Right.
It's like the God of the Old Testament obviously was not the same God that Jesus was talking about. They couldn't have been.
No.
Jesus said, turn the other cheek. The God of the Old Testament said, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to smile. You're all in deep shit now. You got a wrathful, jealous, vengeful, cruel, genocidal God, in that first testament. And then you have the God of Jesus in the second. And I just don't see how there could possibly be construed as the same person, the same entity, whatever.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. Anyway. What else have you been excited to talk about? Dude, tell me about, I know you've had a few. I just love touching on this because, again, I know there's something to it, but parceling out what's true and what's not, and then it also becomes kind of religious because there's this religious aspect to the flat Earth movement, which is another thing I don't like about it. That says everything has to be one way or it's not. But the Tartarians, right? And the what do they call them? The mud
flood. Yeah.
Mud flood. And, we have a lot of evidence to support that those two things, that society and those are events, geologic, ecological, whatever you call them, they happened, right? Where do you fall on all those?
I believe there have been multiple resets of information from humanity. I think it's impossible to tell. Anyone that studies ancient history, my hat is off to them because it's difficult to know enough to know what happened just 10 years ago, much less in our ancient past. I think so much has been rewritten. I think there's a lot to the Tartaria story. I think that there have been more recent resets, possibly early to late 1800s, maybe around the 1700s, where families like the Rockefellers and Rothschilds sanctioned academics to essentially rewrite our history and our science books and present that as a false reality. So to me, it's almost impossible to go back a certain distance in time and really have a good understanding of what's going on. So I'm definitely down with the possibility of a advanced empire that maybe lived more harmoniously, that the parasitic rulers couldn't have, and they had to reset everything. And I think, unfortunately, we may be in the midst of something like that right now because all our information is being erased. Everything that's beneficial, it's difficult to find, especially online, and we're having rewriting of history as we speak. Our fictional characters are becoming something completely different than we understand them as. Who knows, man? I think we may be into something.
Towns in Lebanon as Israel destroys them in real time. Yeah, just little things. Little things like that to be wary of, hey, Google and Apple, could you stop deleting towns in Israel? Could you stop fucking bombing your neighbor because they didn't do anything to you and it's like the oldest fucking place on the planet that was in one piece until you started destroying it. I just don't. Why isn't everyone up in arms? Why is Israel bombing Lebanon? Okay, Hezbollah, is Hezbollah even in Lebanon? What is their excuse? They're just destroying whole towns and no one is saying shit. This world we live in is fucking flabbergasting to me.
Well, that also goes back to the religious aspect. So many people who support Israel are doing it because they believe that they're God's chosen people, and the Jewish narrative that when Christ returns, their Messiah is going to be the one, and they're the only ones that are right about all this. So, and unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians that follow that narrative, but it's, again, based on the dogma that has been programmed for years. And but I think with everything that's happened over the past few years, there's more people that are starting to become aware of the true nature of Israel and what they really mean. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see so many have this awareness. People that I never thought would are questioning me about it. So there's something happening with that information that's very positive.
I'll tell you what, man, I it's a very controversial subject to talk about, but you learn about the truth behind World War I and how it came about. Then you learn about how that led directly to World War II, and how the end of World War II was that the true history of what happened was spun into a way that would, snatch these people the piece of land that they had been fucking trying for so long. You're like, wow. And I used to tell people, I'm like, do you ever look into, how World War I really started? Why we got involved, how we got involved, and then World War II and what John F. Kennedy wrote in his journal about Hitler after he was there, because he was there after the war ended, and he wrote in his journal that one day history will exonerate Hitler because he was truly a man of the people, and all he was trying to do was help his people. And people are like, wow, I was like, look into what really happened and understand that the history books and the textbooks that we're taught are being finally, manicured and chosen by the people who manipulated the history books to get what they wanted. I'll just say that, I don't want to make this podcast too controversial, but what the great thing what I'm trying to say is the whole notion of what happened in World War II and the reason why Israel became Israel in the first place, the truth about that is coming out. When I first started to tell people what I had researched ad nauseum, because if you're going to research something so controversial that you could be labeled a denier if you come out and share your information, and arrested in 17 countries and serve time in 17 countries simply for denying a aspect of history actually happened. Name one other great historic truth that in 17 countries, if you deny it happened, you'll go to fucking jail. I can't think of one.
Yeah.
You know why? Because fucking real history doesn't need those kind of laws to protect it. Only fabrications do. And what is it? It's impossible to investigate something. It's impossible to deny. If you investigate something and you come to the conclusion and you bring that conclusion and then you get arrested for having that conclusion, that's a great deterrent. Like the whole game was fixed. But when I first started telling people, read this book, watch this documentary, people were like, you're fucking crazy, man. You are unhinged, bro.
You're a Nazi.
You've gone off the fucking deep end. I was like, well, I like forensics. I like chemistry. And I like math, believe it or not. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. I like numbers, I like odds and you can call me unhinged all day. But I can tell you with certainty that everything you've been taught is fucking bullshit. It's mathematically impossible, and now you see people, these videos they can't stop them anymore. They're just buzzing around the internet. People are on to the real history and the manipulation that's gone on. And it begins and ends with the fucking Zionist families, the Rothschilds, what they did in World War I, World War II, and what they're still doing fucking today.
Yeah. They've done a great job of creating this victim mentality for the Jewish people. I feel so sorry for the majority of Jews that have no idea what's beyond the surface level of their religion and their government and what's really going on. They are programmed to be victims their entire lives and truly believe that the rest of the world is trying to harm them because they're God's chosen people.
Because
so
they're
there's
Jewish,
there's this double layer of being a victim and at the same time being better than everyone else. So it's a dangerous kind of cocktail of a mentality to have.
It's and there's the fucking law of manifestation right there. So you got a people who are indoctrinated from the time they're babies, that specifically speaking about Israelis now. There's not all of them. You cannot say all of them, but there's a great majority of them who are indoctrinated from the time they're little that the world hates them because they're Jewish, because they're God's chosen people. And this is the only safe place for them, you know, because everyone else wants to kill them. And so they're also taught that, and that makes it okay to kill Palestinians because they're not truly human. You know, they're really not. It's not offensive in the eyes of God, and that's what the Talmud teaches. And you could say
That's
whatever
some
you
Old
want.
Testament mentality, too.
It is. and I tell people, I'm like, wait a minute. You know, like, you're telling me to stop making generalizations, and I'm trying not to. But are you denying that the Talmud, one of the two basic books of the Judaic religion, at least the major sect of it, does it not teach that it's okay for them to do that? You know, crickets. I'm like, no one is coming out and saying, hey, you know what? This book, maybe not a good look. Maybe what it says about Jesus might be offensive to those Christians who are giving us millions of dollars.
Right.
No, I don't hear anyone saying that. I don't hear anyone condemning the Talmud. They just accept it, you know? And I'm just like, self-fulfilling prophecy. Now where are we at? The whole fucking world does hate Israel now. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish. It has to do with the fact that they're fucking genociding and murdering people with no reason other than imperial expansion. And they've been doing it for years, you know? Yeah.
Something interesting that I see with the co-opting of beneficial things for humanity is trying to infiltrate and co-opt spirituality. I saw it early on after the COVID fiasco with the New Age movement. That was being pushed with the algorithms. So many New Age gurus and content creators coming out. It's still a huge thing, but now it seems they are shifting towards Christianity. They're trying to get as many people in that weaponized cult Christianity bubble as possible so that they can steer them easily in whatever direction they want. So that's another thing you have to be extremely careful about these days is who you're listening to as far as your spiritual information and what guru you're trying to listen to, because all of these movements in the mainstream that the algorithm is pushing have been weaponized, and none of it is going to lead you to enlightenment.
No. And, you know, you saw a clear kind of push for this whole, specifically Catholic, I think, but Christian, you know, Russell Brand, you know, Candace, and, you know, and both, look, I believe that it works, you know, for both of them. I was a little disappointed in Russell because he had such a high IQ, such a spiritual, you know, intelligent acumen about him. And so he's such a blessed orator. But I think he did that out of, you know, fear and desperation. You know, like he knew they were coming after him. And he needed a group to fall in with that would protect him. And J.D. Vance, all these people, you know, what's the app they've made fucking millions off of? What's it called? Holy or fucking... I
didn't know they had an app. They
have an app.
A spiritual app.
They made a lot of money off it. And it was put forth, you know, it was given to J.D. Vance, paid for by, I think, Thiel, who's a fucking outspoken atheist and humanity-hating, you know, maniac. You can't even deny it. He's so, but just wild. And you saw that when Trump campaigned, Russell Brand was brought into the fray, Alex Jones, all these guys, they sought safety into this. They wanted to be part of this, you know, and they were given kind of a little bit of recluse, and now they're falling back out because, you know, if you're going to talk about the truth, you can't stay with bullshit.
Yeah. But they had to do something because people are seeking spiritual answers right now. Ever since the whole COVID fiasco, I think more people in our modern age than ever started to wake up. And once you wake up to some of these things, you want some kind of greater answer, something else
Yeah.
to hold on to, so people start to look for spiritual answers. I know I did, and I found a spiritual path that bypasses anything the algorithm is trying to show me. So I have my own personal connection. I think that's the key that people really need to work on, is not going for these external gurus and the information they're giving you, but have your own experiences and find your own connection.
Amen to that, brother. You just so perfectly said. You have a great barometer, and it's right inside your chest and it's inside your mind. And you don't need to be told anything about the nature of God. You don't need to be told about the commandments. This notion that somehow you're flawed because you're human. Oh yeah, because God makes mistakes. Is that what you're saying? That God just one big screw up after the next. Every human being that's born, poor bastard's got original sin. We got to do something.
We're born
Give
into
him
a
that
soup
little
of sin.
exorcism, baptism thing that we do, where we throw water on him and make him cry. That'll be good for him. I'm just like, what the fuck are you all talking about? Like, it's just. But that's the thing. Like you said, people are looking for answers. They're not comfortable not knowing, and so they'll take what they can get. And what I'm saying, and I think what you're saying, is you have a direct connection to your creator. All you need to do is quiet your mind. There's certain psychedelics that you can use, but meditation for me brought me a serenity and a connection with God that I never imagined possible. It saved my life in every way. And I depend on that connection. I reestablish it daily. And there's no comfort like it, especially in a world that looks the way it does. So, if you want to go to church and pray, God bless you. If it makes you feel good, go. But if you're going and you're like, God, nobody here is happy at all. And this, this sucks. Like, well, I feel worse, why are you going? You don't need a priest. You don't have actual sins to confess. That was all made up too. God didn't create people so that he could say, you fucked up. I gave you free will. You had one chance at it. You used that free will, and now you're in deep shit. That doesn't make sense. It's a total hypocrisy. Why? I don't believe God's a hypocrite.
No. Yeah.
But anyway, man, listen, tell everyone. So everyone, if you're watching, Chris usually has another camera, but it's not functioning right now. So he's using his side camera, but he's been set up. He's been doing this for a long time. Chris, tell everyone about your long-standing podcast, where every platform it's on, and where they can keep up with your work.
Sure. Forbidden Knowledge News. You can get it on all podcast platforms. It was on YouTube. We got kicked off, but we got an email a few months ago that we're reinstated for some reason. So
Wow.
We're back on YouTube. We're on Rumble and, all the social media stuff, Instagram, Facebook. But what I'd really like you guys to check out is my movies. My first film, Occult, Louisiana, that is available right now on Tubi. My second film, Doors of Perception, is on Amazon Prime, and I am currently working on my third film in
Nice.
final editing stages. This one's going to be a little different. It's going to be a sci-fi comedy mockumentary, and we're having such fun with this. We're going to have some very familiar content creators and researchers that make cameos in this. It's going to be a real fun film, and we're also having a fundraiser for that. So if I were to send you a link, would you be able to include it in the
Absolutely,
description? Yes, that would be great. If you guys want to help us get this film produced and marketing and advertising, it would be so amazing. Any donation that you give over $100 or more, you're going to get pre-release copies of the film before it comes out. You're going to get your name in the credits, as well as a couple of PDFs of my producer's book, A Warning from History, about the JFK assassination.
Nice.
So you get some cool stuff if you make those donations, and anything is greatly appreciated. And Faust, thank you so much for having me, man. This was great.
It was my pleasure, brother. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. For everyone listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Check out Chris's channel. help him rebuild his subscription, since he was probably kicked off for no reason whatsoever for the longest time, I imagine. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, please don't forget to drop a comment or a couple stars. Let us know what you felt about the conversation. We podcasters, we need those. They build they're our calling card. You know, when people check us out, they want to see what other people say. So we appreciate you taking a minute. And to all my regulars, I love you guys. Thank you for always tuning in. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page. Chris, you the man, bro. Have a great day. And listen, we'll do it again soon. It's always fun.
We'll have to have you back on mine as well.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.